Welcome to the Effective Leader Show. I am your host, Ashrina Petrosi, and today I have with me Lauren Hisey. Lauren is a Lean Six Sigma consultant and trainer, helping businesses become efficient so they can increase revenue, improve culture, and generate cost savings. So thank you, Lauren. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited for our conversation today. So I am completely fascinated by Lean Six Sigma. I love it. I've gone through some of the trainings myself, but I know some of our audience may be asking, what is Lean Six Sigma?
Lean Six Sigma, that's an interesting topic, and I wish we had more time. I could just give a whole training. I could just talk to you just about Lean Six Sigma today. Lean Six Sigma really is two methodologies put together. So there's Lean that was developed by Toyota, and then there's also Six Sigma that was developed at Motorola back in the 80s. And so different practitioners do different things. There's some practitioners that just do Lean. So Lean, just think of a Lean organization where we remove the waste and what we call non-value added steps out of a process. And processes, by the way, can be at any point in an organization. And Lean also focuses on employees and customers. So Six Sigma is also another methodology, like I said, was from Motorola, and that usually what Six Sigma does is it uses data, and it also looks at processes, but it uses a data approach to kind of remove the variation out of our process. So when you put the two methodologies together, you remove the waste and you're also removing the variation to try and make the process as efficient as possible. But one thing that I do love, and I like to when I work with clients and even when I teach it, is that it's great to have the data and the tools, but we also I like to look at it as a toolbox approach, meaning that there's always not one way or way to do it that's better. So having all those tools in my toolbox kind of help me make the processes better, but also to make the company culture better. So that includes making employee morale better, making the leaders more effective, because it's not just a one and done approach. It's always an approach that we like to implement continuous improvement. And that's a quick snapshot of Lean Six Sigma.
Yeah, beautiful. And yeah, that's what drives me because
Yeah,
I like leaning things up, streamlining processes
exactly.
and working on improving culture.
Yes, definitely, definitely. I try to use that approach in my own business. So it's not something I just go and consult on, and I try to practice it every day in my processes for my own business as well.
Yeah, it's two great systems that when used together
Yes,
work quite
definitely,
well. Yeah.
definitely.
And so now with technology and building, we are adding to that. So we had Lean, we had Six Sigma, we've added them together, and now we have actually more to really create the current day Lean organization.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, if you take a look at technology, especially with the evolution of using AI, one of the things I like to talk about or express is that we're still like in our what you call the industrial revolution. So we started back with the industrial revolution with the steam engine and the cars, but now we're come full circle to where we're moving into a more advanced technology, and we're using AI, and or where we are with AI, or AI is like includes like RPA, which is process automation, machine learning, which is using intelligence to processes a little bit faster. But one of the biggest things I find is that people want to use these shiny new tools when their processes or even their employees are not on board, or the employees aren't on board. So what I find is that AI will reveal how bad the process or even how bad the culture is faster. And so before we start using those new shiny new tools, we probably need to take a step back and make sure that our processes are good, and make sure that they are that there are sustainable, there's standardization there, but we also need to make sure that all of our employees and even our leaders are on board to use use this new technology instead of trying to throw everything at technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
We gotta le
definitely.
we gotta learn before we just, "Oh, new shiny object, let's implement it." Well,
Exactly.
let's learn
Exactly.
how it works and if it's gonna be a useful tool and how to use it as a useful tool in our organization.
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And one of the biggest things too is that one of my favorite quotes that I always come back to is by Dr. Edwards Deming. Is I'm going to read it from off my paper. A bad system will be a good person every time. So what I mean is, if your processes aren't great, and then of course if your people aren't on board, your system, whatever technology or whatever system you use, is going to it's just going to reveal how bad things are. And that's one of the reasons why I think leveraging Lean Six Sigma with this AI or any type of technology is by using them together. I think what happens is you create a really great system. But on the flip side of that, if we have a lean organization, if your organization becomes too lean, meaning that you implement the technology or the AI, and maybe you have really standardized processes, is that the system or the organization can become too rigid. So it's a very fine balance, a very gray area on where you go to do with all this stuff. And that's one of the great things about Lean Six Sigma is that even with the lean approach is that you implement continuous improvements. You're always evolving and always looking at what's going on in the marketplace, what's going on within your organization, and then what's also going on with technology. It's just a continuous cycle of always looking at what's the best way to continue to improve your organization, because things change almost on a daily basis now. Shoot, so they might even change hourly. um, and so if we take that continuous improvement mindset with the technology and with the people, then you can develop a business that's very sustainable for today and for the future.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about is
Yeah.
sustainability.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what I think what happens too is that a lot with sustainability, a lot of times we have people or leaders that might lose the human side of the aspect of technology. So one of my biggest things is putting the human back into technology. And so using Lean Six Sigma, it can definitely help with that. For example, back when Henry Ford was developing the Model T, he actually developed a really good process, a very stable but very rigid process with the machines to take that auto manufacturing down from taking days and days and days almost to hours and probably minutes depending on the different parts. But what he did there was he made it easy just to hire anybody off the street. So there was a lot of unskilled workers because the machines were doing a lot of work and they were just he had a system where it was really rigid. So if you think about Henry Ford, like they did really great at the Model T, but then as things started to change, he didn't see that the market was changing and he wasn't changing with the market. And because more people at that time, as cars became more readily available and people were getting more money, they wanted more customization. They just didn't want the same black car all the time. They wanted to have all the different features, which then leads us into lean, where lean kind of put the human back into human back into automobiles or into the machines. So there you had very skilled workers, and but they were still be able to develop really quality automobiles. So that's what the approach that I like to take with businesses is say, hey, let's take the Lean Six Sigma and let's look at our people. Let's make sure that they're skilled and make sure that they're being trained and they're continuously improving themselves. Then that will continue to improve the organization or the business because you start to use the new shiny tools, as I call it.
Mm.
And so people become skilled on those new tools. So that way the humans or the people in our companies, from all the way from the CEO or president or business owner all the way to the front line, I call them the frontline workers, are always learning and always using that continuous improvement mindset to make the business much better.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, I was just about to say, a lot of what I've been talking about with others when we're talking about ourselves and with humans and effective leadership is really being open and, not resistant to change, accepting,
Exactly.
and it's always a continuous learning. And, that holds true with technology and now with artificial intelligence as well.
Exactly. Yeah, because you know what? Like I said, the shiny new tools are coming out every day. So as we can learn how to use those new tools and implement them into our work, one, they do make our lives easier. I know a lot of people are scared of the change and people are scared to use the new tools and trying to figure out where do they fit in this whole new environment. But if we continue to learn and we continue to evolve ourselves, then we'll find places for us in this new technology era, I guess is the best way to put it.
Right.
Even though we're not there, we're not completely there using all of technology. I'm sorry, using the new AIs, but we are starting to become dependent upon them. But how can we use that technology to make ourselves better and make our lives a little bit easier? So instead of working, crazy hours, I'm thinking sometimes you have some frontline workers or maybe, depending what industry or what business you in, sometimes you do have your employees that are working overtime. But if you can implement the technology to help them to not work overtime, then your employee morale increases because your employees can spend more time with their families and not at work. So just some of the balancing act. Like I said, it's a complete balancing act to have uh, to not be so rigid and move with the times, but then also have this process as lean as possible so you can make those changes faster.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why there's people like you out there, amazing Lean Six Sigma
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
consultant and trainers that will come into businesses because I'm sure some of our listeners out here are going, "This sounds great, but how the heck do I implement it?"
Yeah, and so yeah, it's a like I said, that's why I'm big on that. It's a balancing act because for a successful business, and how do you do that? There are a lot of great training. There's a lot of great articles out there that you can do if you're a smaller business and maybe not have the money just right off the bat to have someone come in. um, is just having that training, or even just have, maybe you could just have a casual conversation. That's one of the big things I do too, is I try to have discovery calls with different businesses from small all the way to big corporations to understand what they're looking for. And if I'm not able to help them, then point them to someone that could help them, or maybe to show them some articles or some ways that they can do something right off the bat that can make their lives much better, make their businesses a lot much better. Because I always think about, if you get back to the foundations, if you have those fantastic processes, then you'll also have happy employees and strong leadership, and then you'll have happy customers. And then technology just kind of just gets overlaid on top of that. Then you have a successful business.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that introduces this like stability and flexibility into your processes. And so that way, if you stable but you're still flexible, kind of just, like I said, balances things out.
Yes, absolutely. And usually I'll save this for the end of the interview, but because we're kind of in there, and some of you are like, "Oh, the discovery call." So Lauren has been so generous to offer all of our audience listeners a 30-minute discovery call with herself. So um, after this interview, you can click on Get Lauren's free gift button. We have links, and you can schedule a 30-minute discovery call and get some very valuable feedback and next action plan steps for your business.
Definitely, definitely. I'm excited for that. I'm excited. I like talking to people about their businesses and understanding what some of their hardships are, because it's not the same for every business. It's different for every client I've ever spoken to. It's been different. I've been asked that a lot. I mean, but a lot of the questions I'll ask is, if you like, for example, if you think your business is efficient, but your employees are still unhappy, or if your customers aren't happy, or maybe you're trying to grow your business and you've tried so many different things, many people don't understand where the problems are, and I always get, like I said, I just get back down to the basics. I use my toolbox to understand what's going on, and a lot of times when I start those discovery calls, sometimes it's very simple to give them a couple of pointers, and they're really happy. Or sometimes I have to go in and work with the client with my clients as well. And sometimes they just need to be taught something, like, so I go in and I do some teachings. It's like I say, it's different flavors depending what's going on.
Yeah, it like takes me back to the story you were telling about Henry Ford, and it's like,
Yeah,
it's not that rigid, like one size fits all model. Like everyone needs some custom features.
exactly. Very much so.
Yeah. Um, so I'd love to talk a little bit more about AI and companies and new technology and
Yeah.
how um, Lean Six Sigma can really help and they can leverage this.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I can sit here and talk statistics all day, but I don't necessarily want to do that. Well, let me give you a couple things. So, a lot of times people think that implementing technology or AI is going to solve all of their problems, but that's not necessarily true. So, um, for example, I have a client that I worked with last year, smaller client, that they were trying to automate their sales process and try to automate the back end. So they had their sales process up front, but they also had they were trying to automate the back end when they were done with their clients. And they kept throwing these tools at the process, and it kept failing. And what they didn't realize is that that one, they weren't technology experts, they were just trying to do it on their own. But two, they didn't realize that their processes were so or uh, lack of a better term, crazy. They were unstable. So they couldn't understand how what they did. First, they didn't understand that they just thought throwing the technology at the problem was going to fix it. And when I came in, I said, no, your technology is not going to fix it. You have to map out your process, see where the problems are with the process itself. And it's not necessarily people that are in the process that are causing the problems. It could just be like the process itself. So what we ended up doing was, mapping out the process, having the discovery part of the process and understanding where the problems are. And then we fixed the process. And then once the process was stable, then we were able to utilize it for like 30, I think it was about 30 days, to make sure that everybody knew how the process worked. And then once we did that, they were able to implement their some just right off the shelf AI tools, or RPA, the process automation. And by doing that, they, in about 3 to 4 months, they ended up having such stable process. Then for their sales process, then their customers or their clients were happy. But what was great was that the money they invested in me coming in to make sure their processes were good, and then the money that they invested finally in the new technology, it more than paid for itself within about, like I said, 4 to 6 months.
Wow.
So yeah, and what was even more exciting for me was not just seeing that their clients were happy, but also seeing that their employees were excited. So they weren't having to do manual processes anymore. They were able, so these were sales folks. They were able to spend more time selling the product or in their product and their services, versus inputting all this information into different data, like 5 to 6 different databases that weren't interconnected. So that's just one way. Like, if your processes aren't stable and aren't efficient, then you can't implement that technology. Another example to why a lot of times the technology fails is because people are unsure of what they really want that technology to do, or that AI tool to do. So when you think about scope of what a project would do, or what's the benefits, if you don't understand what you want it to do, then that comes back to the processes. What do you want your process to do? What's the outcome you're looking for? Of course, the other biggest thing too that people don't realize using the new technology is that if you have bad data going into a process, so bad data in, you're going to get garbage coming out on the other side. So, for going back to the example where I had a client where their sales process was pretty bad, they were having so many human mistakes, putting in um, just contact information, wrong email addresses, wrong phone numbers, misspelling the person's name, in what industry what industry they were in. Then all that information between 6 different databases, you had people like manually putting it in, and it was so chaotic that when you don't have good data coming in, that's where another place where the AI can definitely help, which is something very simple, what we call poke or mistake proofing, is making sure that our data coming in is clean, so that way on the back end of the process, the data coming out is clean as well. I'm trying to think of what some other things. When it comes to culture and leadership, some of the times, like I said, people are afraid of the new technology. So, and sometimes people try to wonder, well, how can technology or Lean Six Sigma help me with my culture? And that's where I think the biggest thing, the soft side of all of this, is that if you can make your employees' lives a little bit better, then
Mhm.
they're going to be happy, and then your customers are going to be happy. And people sometimes, business owners or business leaders don't understand that if your employees are happy, they're going to treat your customers so much better. So just think about when you may have gone to, let me think, something simple as going to a restaurant, and say a waiter has to manually input all this stuff into the system. If there's a way, and then of course, then the cooks, you cook something wrong or they mess something up, well then you're when by the time the waiter gets that to the customer and they realize, oh, they messed up the order, they're frustrated, they're unhappy, then they transpose that onto their customers. See, it's just like it becomes a whole vicious cycle. So if you can make your employees' lives a little bit easier, and at the end of the day, if they can spend more time with their family, I think that just makes them so much happier. So that's where technology can help. Technology can just make the process streamlined a little bit better. So you use the lean, you streamline the process, but then if you make it some type of automation, take some of the manual task away, then that makes their lives so much easier, and they can concentrate on helping your customers be happier. Then they don't have to work overtime. So it's just simple little things that sometimes I think of the soft skill. I like to throw the soft skills in there when I'm talking to my clients, trying to help them say it's not always the bottom line, but you have to also make sure your culture and your employees are happy.
Yeah, because those soft skills will translate into the
Yeah.
hard. Like, because yeah, if you have the happy employees, the employees that are getting joy and empowerment and fulfillment in the
Yes.
workplace, your retention rates are going to increase. We know
Exactly.
hard savings on
Exactly.
that. They're going to be happier, like you're saying, providing a better experience, and then customers are appreciating the experience they received, and they're going to be return customers.
Exactly. Exactly. And then, in addition to all that too, if you teach your employees about the new technology, let them use it, let them play with it, they also learn some new skills that they can continue to use. So that's part of the thing with the continuous improvement, is always learning and always continuous improvement. It's not just for the business, but it's also for the different individuals. So
Hmm.
if you could develop those employees, then they feel they feel empowered, and they feel like, oh great, my leader wants me to learn and wants me to grow my skills, and then they could start to be used in other parts of the business instead of just in one part of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also the approach and
Exactly.
how you introduce, train, and implement
Yes.
new
Yes.
technology.
Exactly, exactly. And so that's why I always think with Lean Six Sigma, if I think about it, Lean Six Sigma is efficiency, continuous improvement. But then if you add the element of culture and then the other element of the technology and put that all together, then you just have a great cycle of always having an organization that's very stable. You're using the technology to make your business better, but also making your employees better.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's fantastic. Is there anything else you would like to talk about or mention with AI and Lean Six Sigma? And
Yeah, my biggest thing, and this is what I always tell my clients, and this some of the articles I write is before you start to implement or start to use those new shiny tools, make sure your processes are stable and efficient. Make sure your employees and also all leadership is on board before you start throwing the new shiny tools at things. Because like I said at the beginning, that if your processes aren't stable, your employees aren't on board and they're not already pretty much happy, and leadership is not on board, then it's all you're gonna do is those tools are just gonna show how bad your processes are and how bad the company culture is, and it's a waste of money at that point. So I'm always about let's implement those cost savings, and that's one is make sure that before you go spend the money on the technology, make sure the processes and people are there.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Lauren, it has been such a pleasure.
it was a pleasure being here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, I love talking Lean Six Sigma anytime, all the
Me
time.
too. Me too.
Yeah, we could just geek out about it all day long.
Exactly.
And so, for our audience, again, I'd like to remind them that you, um, what you've learned in the questions that are coming up, and where you're thinking, how do I do this? Where it's next? What would be best for my specific company, my organization? Lauren is offering a 30-minute free discovery call to answer and get you on the right track and create an action plan for you.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, so thank you so much for your generosity in that. And
You're
yeah.
very welcome. You're very welcome.